My dad's fingers dug into my arm so hard I felt my pulse jump under his grip. And that's when I realized this wasn't a family dinner. This was something else. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like everyone already knew something you didn't? Like you were the only one not in on the plan? That was me, standing in the doorway of my childhood home on Christmas Eve. I'm Lena Carger, 27, and I hadn't spent a holiday with my family in 2 years, not since things got complicated. Not since I realized I was always the extra piece in a puzzle that didn't quite want me. But this year, my mom insisted. Let's just have one normal Christmas, she said. Normal. The moment I stepped inside, I knew that was a lie. The house looked the same, decorated, warm, glowing with lights, but the energy? Off. Too quiet. Too controlled. My mom, Diane, hugged me a little too tightly. My dad, Richard, barely said a word. And my younger brother, Ethan, just sat there with this smile. Not a happy one, a knowing one. I noticed things right away. A folder on the dining table that got quickly covered when I looked at it, my name whispered from the kitchen, conversations that stopped the second I entered the room. Tell me, would you have stayed? Because I almost didn't. But then I remembered my grandfather, George Carter, the only person in that house who ever made me feel like I belonged. He passed away 3 months ago, and I still hadn't fully accepted it. The last time I saw him, he held my hand and said something that didn't make sense back then. Don't let them take what's yours. At the time, I thought he meant memories, sentimental things. I didn't know he meant something a lot bigger. Dinner started like any other. Plates passed around, forced smiles, small talk that felt like it was read off a script. And then my mom put her fork down. "Lena," she said softly, "there's something we need to discuss." The room went silent. My dad reached beside him, picked up that same folder, and slowly slid a document across the table toward me. My eyes dropped to the page, and the moment I saw my grandfather's name at the top, my stomach sank. This wasn't a conversation. This was a setup, and I had just walked straight into it. I hadn't even taken a single bite of food before my family tried to take something from me. The paper in front of me felt heavier than it should have. My fingers hovered over it for a second, like I already knew reading it would change everything. And it did. It was my grandfather's will. Official, signed, final. My eyes scanned the lines quickly at first, then slower, then I stopped breathing altogether. Because right there, in black and white, it said that I, not Ethan, not my parents, I had been left the majority of his estate. The house, his savings, his investments, everything. I looked up. No one looked surprised. Not my mom, not my dad, not even Ethan. And that's when it hit me. They already knew. "Say something," Ethan said, leaning back in his chair like this was entertainment. I swallowed hard. Why am I just seeing this now? My mom jumped in quickly, her voice sweet but too rehearsed. "We didn't want to overwhelm you while you were grieving." Grieving? Or blind? Because suddenly every weird thing about tonight made sense. This wasn't about family. This was about control. Ethan leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Look, Lena, let's just be real. Grandpa made a mistake." A mistake? I felt something tighten in my chest. "He didn't mean to leave everything to you," he continued. "I'm the one who stayed. I'm the one who helped him." That wasn't true. But no one corrected him, not even my dad. Instead, my dad finally spoke, his voice low and firm. "Your brother has a point." I stared at him. "So what are you saying?" My mom reached for another document and gently slid it toward me. Already prepared, already printed. A transfer agreement. "You can fix this," she said softly. "Just sign it over to Ethan. It's the right thing to do." Right. The word echoed in my head, because nothing about this felt right. Not the lies, not the pressure, not the fact that they had clearly planned this entire night around getting me to sign that paper. And the worst part? They expected me to just go along with it, like I always had. Ethan smirked slightly. "Come on, Lena, don't make this difficult." Don't make this difficult? I looked around the table at the people who were supposed to be my family, and for the first time, I didn't feel small. I felt angry. Slowly, I placed the pen down. Then I pushed the document back across the table. I'm not signing anything. Silence. The kind that feels loud. My mom's expression cracked. Ethan's smirk disappeared. And my dad? My dad slowly stood up. The moment I said no, everything changed. Have you ever watched someone drop the act? Like a mask just slips? That's exactly what happened. My dad didn't yell, he didn't slam the table. That would have been easier to handle. Instead, he went quiet. Too quiet. "You don't understand what you're doing," he said, his voice low, controlled. Dangerous. I felt a chill run down my spine. "No," I replied, trying to steady my voice. "I think I do." Ethan let out a sharp laugh, but there was no humor in it. "Wow, so this is who you are now? Greedy?" Greedy. That word hit hard, but not because it was true, because it was familiar. My mom jumped in quickly, her eyes already glossy with tears. "Lena, please, this isn't like you. Your brother needs this more than you do." Needs? I stared at her. Needs what? Grandpa's house? His money? Or just another excuse not to take responsibility for his life? That landed. Ethan's face tightened instantly. "You don't know anything about my life." "I know enough," I shot back. The tension snapped, like a wire pulled too tight. And then they started rewriting everything. "He always intended for Ethan to have it," my dad said, coldly. "You were barely around," my mom added quickly. "You just showed up at the end," Ethan finished. That one stung, because it wasn't true. I was there. I called, I visited, I stayed when it mattered. But suddenly, they were all saying the same thing, like they'd rehearsed it, like they needed me to believe it. And then, my dad stepped closer. Too close. "You're going to sign that paper," he said quietly. It wasn't a request. Before I could react, his hand shot out, grabbing my arm tightly. Pain shot through me instantly. "You will obey." My heart slammed against my chest. This wasn't pressure anymore. This was force. This was control. And for the first time that night, I felt something shift inside me. Fear turning into something else. Something stronger. I pulled slightly against his grip. "Let go of me." But he didn't. No one moved. No one stopped him. Not my mom and not my brother. No one. And just as the moment reached its breaking point, a voice cut through the room. Calm, firm, unshaken. "That's enough, Richard." Everything froze. My dad's grip loosened just a little. My head snapped toward the kitchen. Wait, someone else was here? I hadn't heard the door. I hadn't seen anyone. But footsteps followed, slow, measured. And suddenly, Ethan didn't look so confident anymore. My mom's face went pale, and my dad, for the first time all night, looked uncertain. The figure stepped into the dining room, holding a folder, and said clearly, "I think it's time we told the truth." The truth has a way of showing up at the worst possible moment, and somehow the exact right one. The woman who stepped into the dining room wasn't a stranger to me. Not completely, but seeing her there, in this moment, felt unreal. "Margaret?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Margaret Lewis, 62, my grandfather's lawyer. The same woman who handled all his affairs for years. The same woman who was supposed to call me after the will was finalized. Except she never did. Until now. She walked in calmly, like she had all the time in the world, placing a thick folder on the table with a quiet but deliberate thud. "Let go of her, Richard," she said again, this time sharper. And just like that, my dad released my arm. No argument. No resistance. That alone told me everything. Margaret turned to me briefly, her expression softening. "Lena, I'm sorry this is how you're finding out." Finding out what? I didn't even realize I was holding my breath. Then she opened the folder, and everything started to unravel. "I was asked personally by your grandfather to oversee the execution of his will," she began, her tone steady and precise, "and more importantly, to make sure it wasn't interfered with." A pause. A heavy one. My stomach dropped, because he suspected this might happen. Silence crashed over the room. I slowly turned my head toward my family. No one spoke. No one denied it. Margaret continued, pulling out documents one by one. "Over the past 6 weeks, your parents have attempted to contest the will on multiple grounds, none of which held legal merit." My mom shook her head immediately. "That's not—" Margaret didn't even look at her. "I'm not finished." That shut her down instantly. Then came the next blow. They also attempted to present altered documents, suggesting a redistribution of assets. Altered. My heart started racing. Forgery. "They pressured me," Margaret added calmly, "repeatedly, to approve changes that were never authorized." I looked at Ethan. His eyes dropped. He knew. He knew. And then, the final piece. Margaret pulled out a small recorder and placed it gently on the table. Click. My grandfather's voice filled the room. Clear. Weak, but unmistakable. "Lena is my rightful heir. I've made that decision carefully, and if anyone tries to change that after I'm gone, they're doing it against my wishes." The recording stopped. No one moved. No one breathed. And in that moment, everything made sense. The lies, the setup, the pressure. It wasn't just manipulation. It was planned, calculated. My grandfather knew. He knew they would do this, and he made sure I'd be protected. Margaret closed the folder slowly, then looked directly at me. "Lena, would you like to proceed with legal action?" The room went completely still. My mom looked like she might collapse. Ethan looked scared. And my dad? For the first time in my life, he had nothing to say. All eyes turned to me, because now, for the first time ever, I had the power. And what I said next would change everything. Have you ever had a moment where everything finally becomes clear? Not confusing, not emotional, just clear. That's what this was. I looked at Margaret, then at the papers on the table, then slowly at the people who had spent my entire life making me feel small. And for the first time, I didn't feel small at all. I want everything documented, I said, my voice steady. The words landed like a final verdict. No hesitation, no second guessing, just truth. Margaret nodded once, like she had been expecting that answer all along. Understood. And just like that, the illusion shattered completely. My mom broke first. "Lena, please, we didn't mean it like this. We were just trying to keep things fair." "Fair?" I repeated, turning to face her fully. "You planned this. You lied to me. You tried to pressure me into signing away something Grandpa chose to give me." She had no answer. Ethan tried next, but he wasn't confident anymore. "Okay, fine. Maybe we handled it wrong, but you don't have to go this far. We're still family." Family. That word didn't feel the same anymore. I shook my head slowly. Family doesn't corner you, family doesn't lie to you, and family definitely doesn't try to take what isn't theirs. Silence. Heavy. Final. Even my dad said nothing. He just stood there. Stiff. Quiet. Exposed. And that silence told me more than any apology ever could. Over the next few weeks, everything unfolded exactly as Margaret said it would. Legal notices were sent out. The attempted fraud, because that's exactly what it was, triggered a formal investigation. My parents weren't arrested, but they came dangerously close. Their reputation? Destroyed. People talk, and this kind of thing spreads fast. Ethan? He lost more than just the inheritance. Without my parents quietly supporting him anymore, reality hit him hard. No backup plan, no easy way out. And me? I secured everything legally. Every asset, every document my grandfather worked for. No loopholes, no interference. A month later, I stood in front of my grandfather's house, keys in hand. Mine. Not because I fought for it, but because he trusted me with it. I walked in slowly, the familiar scent wrapping around me like a memory that never left. For the first time in a long time, it felt peaceful. No tension, no expectations. Just quiet. Later that evening, I found something I hadn't noticed before. A small envelope tucked inside one of his old books. My name was written on it. Inside, a single note. You were always stronger than they wanted you to believe. I read it twice. Then I smiled. Not because I won, but because I finally understood something I never did before. That Christmas dinner didn't take anything from me. It revealed everything. And in doing that, it gave me something I never thought I'd have. A clean break, a real beginning, and a life that was finally mine.